The last thing you want to hear when you need your auto insurance most is a robot with countless irrelevant menu options. Which is why with USAA Auto Insurance, you'll get great service that is easy and reliable, all at the touch of a button. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
USAA.
Hilton brings you new ways to stay. With experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
Welcome to the Well Seasoned Librarian Podcast. This is Season 16, Episode 4. Today, host Dean Jones will be talking with Bebe Black Carminito, whose book, The Curated Board, Inspired Platters Spreads for Any Occasion, came out last fall. Carminito, who is a food stylist, recipe developer, content creator, and professional makeup artist. She co-runs and oversees 3 global cookbook clubs. Her foray into cookbooks was the California Date Cookbook, as well as styling for 52 Shabbats. Bebe attended the San Francisco Cooking School and started her culinary career at A16, an acclaimed restaurant in San Francisco. She resides in San Francisco with her husband and best friend, David Carminito. We now take you to Dean's conversation with author food stylist Bebe Black Carminito.
Welcome to the podcast. Today, we're speaking with Bebe Black Carminito. Her new cookbook, The Curated Board, is out, Inspired Platters and Spreads for Any Occasion. Bebe, thanks for being on the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me, Dean. Thrilled to be here.
And where are you calling? Where are we talking to you from in the United States? I know that you live in the Bay Area, as I do.
Yeah, so thank you. I live in the Richmond district, which is literally across the street from Golden Gate Park. And it's a stone's throw away from the beach. You can go to the park every day if you wanted, or hop on Muni. It's very accessible to pretty much anywhere in the city. So that's where we're nestled.
I love that area. It's really beautiful. For people that are not familiar, it's really one of the nicer parts of San Francisco. Bebe, I want to ask you, what inspired you and sparked your fascination with creating these beautiful and intricate curated boards that you have in your cookbook?
Thank you. Well, actually, Dean, it was during the pandemic, and my husband and I would go out for dinner every single Friday night. At 5 o'clock, we'd have a standing reservation somewhere, or we'd try a new restaurant in the neighborhood. And it was kind of like our escape to kind of jumpstart the weekend. Every Friday, we'd go to dinner. So when the pandemic and lockdown happened, what happened is that we could no longer do that. So I thought, how can I bring date night in and make it, still have our Friday night tradition? So I started making charcuterie boards every single Friday night. And that was basically how that whole thing came into being. And we called it Nibble Board Friday.
I want to ask you about the book, and with so many possibilities that there are out there, what's your personal philosophy when it comes to balancing flavors and textures on a curated board?
Well, I want it to be interesting to the people that are eating it, of course. And I like mixing like something creamy, something crunchy, something briny, something salty, just to give a varied, experience to the palate. And that way it's more interesting to consume it.
Thinking about your journey from the San Francisco Cooking School and A16 to becoming a cookbook author, how do you balance creating these platters with your restaurant experience and influence from cooking school?
I think the most valuable lesson that I learned in cooking school and working in restaurants is how to prep, how to do a mise en place, how to get everything ready so that when you actually are assembling a board, your hummus is already made, your veggies are already chopped, your cheeses are already sliced. things that you can do ahead of time, do them. And that way, when you go to assemble a board, it's not like so laborious. It's a lot more accessible and a lot more fun if you're more prepared, basically. So that's what I learned. I took away that experience of getting everything prepped, having a list that you would have a prep list every day, and then that would, kind of set your day up for success.
What were some of the biggest challenges you faced while writing the curated board, and what did you learn from this experience?
The most difficult thing for me was that during the final editing process, I had too many recipes, too many menus. So I would have to say the hardest thing for me was cutting some of my favorite recipes. And that was a little bit challenging. But then I realized I could use them another time, which was kind of a great takeaway as well.
I found when I've made curated boards for people or charcuterie boards for people, I have been a little bit intimidated by the process. Sometimes I go to the cheese section or the deli section and I'm looking around and I get really kind of like blocked mentally as to what you should be doing. Is there any kind of guidance you can give us to this process?
Well, when it comes in terms of cheese terms, pick something that's a cow's cheese, a goat's cheese, pick different kinds of milk cheeses that you want to kind of give it a variety. But the most important rule is to have fun and to make it exciting and to think outside the box and get creative. You want building a board to elicit joy and, conviviality. And if you're having fun, then your guests will too. So I think that's the most important thing. But a variety of color, flavor, textures we talked about earlier, and just keeping it abundant and fresh looking, I think is the most important thing.
After reading the book, what I wanted to really get across to the listeners is that there's not just like one simple theme to this. There's a lot of different inspirations here that you used. I want to ask you about the inspiration behind incorporating some of these diverse ranges of platters, from the Lebanese brunch to the Ukrainian feast.
Right. So like after building the same cheese and charcuterie board week to week during the pandemic, of course, based on what we had in our pantry and our, refrigerator, et cetera, I started kind of getting bored with the same thing every week.
Yeah.
And at the time I was doing a cookbook club called the Get Cooking Cookbook Club, in which we do women penned books that are globally diverse. And so I took that inspiration of the globally driven theme and kind of applied it to the menus that I would put on the board for Friday night, such as an apero menu or a Greek menu. And that way it kind of built some variety into every Friday night. And also for the Ukrainian menu, I have a friend her name is Anna Volishina, and I asked some contributors that I wanted to work with that are in the Bay Area that all have a very global perspective on their cuisine. So when I asked them to partake in the writing and the menu contribution, I used that as impetus for the book as well.
I loved some of the clever and innovative recipes in the book. I mean, it's not just some simple things you throw on here, like just carte blanche hummus or something like that. There's a lot of different things here, and I really love what you're doing with the flavors in the book. Speaking specifically like pineapple jalapeno cheese balls or the green chili spinach and artichoke dip. Where do these innovation ideas come from?
Well, to be honest, these are also menus and recipes that are built around flavors that I particularly enjoy, such as green chili. I was raised in New Mexico. As I don't know if I told you this. It was one of the questions, where am I from? But anyway.
Yeah.
I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico. And so using that gastronomic heritage of having green chili or red chili at every meal, I incorporated one of my recipes to have green. A couple of the recipes actually in the book are inspired by New Mexican flavors. But I took my gastronomic heritage and built that into some of the themes and menus and recipes. But I also like anything spicy and sweet mixed together. So based on what I particularly like, I kind of wanted to drive menus that way as well.
It really shows, that as a food stylist and photographer, it's really important to have a good visual appeal in the curated boards. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I'm sure. So basically, I think the most important thing is when you have a board is to have bold and punchy colors, because, we feast with our eyes first, right? And so remember that that's something that you want to have kind of at the forefront of your board creativity, is that you want people to look at it and think, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. I don't want to eat it.
Yeah.
Because that does happen. People will say, I
Yeah.
don't want to touch it. And I'm like, please do. That's the whole point. I want you to get in there. But, have vibrant, abundant, vivid colors to really add to the scene. And I like also adding elements such as, edible flowers and beautiful verdant herbs and everything to look fresh. And I think one of my pet peeves is when I see something on my board, it's my own pet peeve, something that looks a little unsightly or bruised, I to remove it right away. If it doesn't look fresh, don't use it. That's kind of my golden rule. But the most important thing is to have fun when you're doing this. That's really what you want your friends to see, is that you're enjoying the experience.
I want to go back to, you mentioned the global cookbook clubs. I'm curious about them. And as somebody, as a librarian who does book clubs and stuff, I find this very intriguing. Can we talk about this a little bit and how this community influenced your culinary perspective and the ideas you present in the Curated Board?
Of course. So yes, my cookbook clubs and cookbook community played a key role in my book. I wanted a mix of elements with a global perspective. And also living in San Francisco, or in the Bay Area for that matter, we have such a rich diversity when it comes to food. So I wanted that to be an integral influence in the book, to have an inclusivity with all the menus.
What's one thing you hope readers will feel inspired to do after exploring the Curated Board and maybe even creating their own inspired platters?
Well, basically, like I said earlier, have fun with it. And seriously, if you take it too seriously, people are gonna know that you're stressing or that you're worried about it looking perfect. But you want your guests to get in there and make it messy. That's kind of, I think, the biggest compliment for me is when I see a board that has been literally demolished. There's cheese everywhere. You want that. You want to elicit joy and fun, and you want your guests to enjoy it as much as you do.
I always feel, embarrassed asking this question, but I always like to ask it just in case there's something that's coming up. What's next for you now that the book is out?
To be honest with you, that's a great question. I'm still promoting this book. I have events lined up through the holiday season already, and I'm just gearing up toward a very abundant summer schedule-wise with promotion and book signings. And I have a few ideas for a second book. So that might be happening. But right now, I'm just really in the throes of, loving promoting this book.
Just from a point of personal curiosity and somebody who loves food and really is a big cheese fan, what are some of your kind of secret kind of things you love to put on a Curated Board that are always a real hit for you?
I always love olives. There's always an olive. Normally a Castelvetrano or, really good olive. And I love cheese, of course. So there's always a different variety of milk cheeses on there. I love Mimolette, one of my favorite cheeses. I love blue cheese as well. Mm-hmm. And I love dips. I think that's another thing that we didn't talk about as much, but there's a lot of dips in the book. There's a green chili, as we talked about earlier, the green chili spinach artichoke dip. There's a baked herb ricotta. There's a green chili millionaire dip. There's a bunch of different kinds of things that we can dip while we sip, so to say. And I like having something sweet on the board, like whether it's a honey or a brittle, a jam, some kind of sweet element. I think that's a key thing as well.
Well, Bebe, I want to thank you for being on the podcast and getting to talk about your book. I'm going to have links in the bio for people to purchase it, so they'll go there for that. And I'll put other links in there as well to be able to reach out and find about what you've done. Bebe, thank you for being on the podcast. I really enjoyed getting to talk to you.
Thank you, Dane. Thanks again for having me.
All right. As Dean wraps up his insightful conversation with the talented Bebe Black Carminito, we hope you enjoyed learning about her journey and the inspiration behind her beautiful book, The Curated Board, Inspired Platters Spreads for Any Occasion. You can find links to purchase Bebe's book in the liner notes of this episode, so be sure to check them out and perhaps bring some inspired platters and spreads to your next gathering. Until next time, we will see you in the library.